So for the last while, I've been wrestling with the idea of what is it that I really do when I work with hockey players? So the thing I always put out to the public is that I'm a mental coach. And to some extent, that is what I do. But when you really work with me in any way, the thing that players and like all my clients end up kind of realizing is that you need a full development approach in order to get to the next level. And that's the thing, is that if you want to maximize your chances of playing at a higher level, if you're trying to play Division I, you're trying to play professional hockey, maybe you're just trying to go from minor to junior hockey, but whatever it is that you're trying to do, it's not just about fixing one little detail and then all of a sudden everything is going to transform. Sometimes one thing will make a big difference for you, but then you have to adjust again and come up with what's the next thing, and then what's the next thing. And so when I work with players, I have everybody join a program called the Next Level Academy. So it's a group of players who are all committed to the same mission of finding their potential. They're all trying to move up levels. They're all trying to become the best possible version of themselves. And whenever we work together, it always starts with understanding the mental side of the game, and then it quickly transitions into, okay, so what is your training system? So what are you doing for your physical training, your skills training? How do you develop your mind so that you make better decisions on the ice, so you continue to be confident, so you're emotionally in control, so that you're a good leader, you're a good person on and off the ice? How do you have success in school? How do you have success in whatever other areas of life that matter? Because everything connects to everything when it comes to performance. I know you can make the argument that you can have troubles at home or you can have different problems and it won't be a big deal. But what I've noticed is that pretty much any time a hockey player or an athlete has big issues in other areas of their life, eventually it catches up to them in their sporting endeavors. So you think of someone like Tiger Woods is a pretty good example of that, where he was kind of doing a lot of things that were mentally breaking him, and eventually it caught up to him. It wasn't instantaneous. It took a while to get there, but when it did break, he just crumpled. And it's very realistic that can happen to you if you're not dealing with the mental stuff and getting that stuff out of the way. That's the thing, is that it's about getting the stuff that's blocking your performance out of the way mentally, skill-wise, physically, and then it's about trying to solve the problems of what that's going to get you to the next point. So it's solving those barrier skills, getting rid of the things that are the barrier to your performance, and then you just keep unlocking those while finding the type of player you are, which is your identity. So that is a really long-winded introduction, but that's really what I want to talk about today, and that is boosting hockey development. And I want to actually explain this to you. So again, it seems kind of obvious that obviously the problem's pretty clear. You want to then figure out, well, obviously it's development that's going to generally solve that problem, but then what is this thing called development? Because here's the thing, all elite players have it. If you think about an elite player compared to a normal player, an elite player always has a strategy. They have a plan for their development, and then they go all out on this strategy. They focus their energy, their time, and they work with development coaches. They actually have a plan of the direction they're going to head. Whereas normal players, they very rarely have a detailed strategy. Sometimes they just have general, I'll work hard and see what happens, and I'll just try a bunch of stuff, and hopefully this skills coach here helps me, or maybe this mental coach gives me a little confidence from this course I did. And if that's you, I get it, because I was in that same kind of place. I was kind of searching for scraps of information at all different places, and I was always trying to figure out how do I bring this stuff together. And then that's what I've done personally, is figured out that this is development. You're developing into the person you want to be, and that starts with shifting your identity. So the reason why strategy matters so much, and I just want to reiterate this point deeper and deeper for you, is that it's what you do in the dark that pushes you in the light. It's what puts you out there. And Michael Phelps has a video with Under Armour. I think Michael Phelps actually said this quote, but I'm not 100% sure. But either way, this video gives me chills every single time. If you want to search it, just search, "It's what you do in the dark that puts you in the light." And it is just a phenomenal video. And it just shows like Michael Phelps just working super, super hard every single day on pushing himself in the pool, getting out and recovering, pushing himself, recovering. And it's just this clarity of like, I have no regrets because I've done everything I could and pushed myself to the absolute limit. And if anybody's ever studied Michael Phelps, he is like the definition of every single thing he put into his career. He truly gave his career his heart and his soul. And it is amazing to have watched that. Now, I think he probably could have had a little bit of help with the mental side of it to kind of deal with some of the emotions and the problems he was having. I think he did, but I just think the challenge we walk as like really truly committed people is that when you do go all in on something and you give it every single thing you have and you sacrifice all of the rest of your life for it, you just have to understand that that is a component of your life. It's a time in your life to sacrifice. And then there will be opportunities to figure out, to enjoy the other parts of life. But circling back, I know I'm going to go on tangents throughout these podcasts and these videos, but the thing you want to realize is that the stuff you do in the dark, when Michael Phelps is alluding to that point, what it really means is it's the stuff that you don't see, the stuff that you do in the gym, on the ice when no one's really there, or maybe just a few people are there. It's the stuff that you do when you're stretching, when you're watching film. It's the endless hours, the 10,000 hours of skill work you're doing. It's the private victories that stack up. They build you, and they are what actually you become in the light. And that's the thing, is what the light is like, that's the stuff everyone sees in terms of it's the highlight reel goals, it's the wearing gold medals, it's having those trophies, it's signing college commitments, it's having pro contracts. See, that's the light that everyone sees, but you can't have the light without doing the stuff in the dark, doing that stuff that no one else is doing. And that's what everyone is doing in the Identity Shift community, in the Next Level Academy, and in any other programs that we offer. That's what the type of people are that come to this work. And I just want you to realize that you can have that for yourself. You can be that type of person if you're not that person right now. I know it sounds like maybe a little corny to hear, but the thing is it's finding that inner drive. It's realizing that I can develop into the person I want to be, but I have to have a clear strategy. And see, that's the thing, is that most people have a general strategy, but it's not deep. So if you want to have a deeper strategy and you actually want to figure it out, you have to realize behind every single great performance is a strategy that's designed by editors and engineers. And another way to say this is you have obviously the athlete, but then you have a coach or a team of coaches and a team of experts. And when you think of this, you want to think of like LeBron James, who apparently invests like at least $1 million, some people say 1.5 million in his performance every single year. So he has like massage therapists, he has physical trainers, he has like other recovery people and tools. He's always investing in what's the next thing, so he can just squeeze every ounce of performance out of himself and maintain longevity for as long as he can. And that's the thing you want to realize, is like, that's what it takes to be a great athlete. And that's who I'm talking to here. I'm talking to the people who you're trying to play for as long as you can, and you're trying to enjoy the game and get the most out of yourself that you can. And that's what development really comes down to, is like getting the most out of yourself. And of course, you can develop in whatever direction you want, but when it comes to optimizing your development path and your strategy. So here's the thing. You need to have strategy, and I just want to sell you on this a little bit deeper if you're not fully bought into this idea, is strategy matters because you need to have a high-level plan that's designed to achieve a long-term goal. And it actually it involves like actually considering, okay, what are the conditions, what are the uncertain things that we have, and how can we increase the likelihood of success in a situation? And the reason it matters is because we have limited time, limited energy, and limited resources, right? So that could be whatever those resources are. And we only have 24 hours in a day. We all have limited time to reach our potential in terms of we can only spend so many years playing hockey, we will eventually have to stop chasing our potential, because there will be kind of like a peak eventually, and you never really know where that is. And you only have so many years of, or so much energy to spend each day on its own. Like, you can't just train for a full 16 hours straight, push yourself 100%, and then just go to bed. You have to implement proper rest and recovery methods. You have to implement mental recovery. So whether that's meditation, naps, spending time with friends, family, watching TV, watching movies, video games, going for walks, playing other sports that are fun and kind of take your mind off of hockey. It's doing all these different things are really important, because the mind can't just go at 100% all the time. And yet elite athletes sometimes will think that they just need to push themselves harder and harder, and then they just burn their whole system out. It's the same thing with any kind of physical training. You can't train all day. It's why bodybuilders can't just lift all day, every day, right? Like, if you think about it, if you listen to bodybuilders speak about this stuff, it's the same thing. They will always say, like, if I could train all day, I would, but I just can't actually do it. I can't be doing lifting at all moments, because the body will just break down. The body will give up. So if you want to be great, you must understand how hard you can push yourself and where that line is, where you're not training maximally, you're not training minimally, but you're training optimally. And I took this from a guy named Louis Simmons, who was just passed away recently, and he was like one of the best like strength and power coaches like kind of ever, at least in the powerlifting world. And he trained a ton of high level athletes, and that was his big thing, is like, when he learned this idea of, you're not trying to train the most you can, not trying to train the least you can, you're trying to train the best and get the most out of it. That's optimal training. And so that's the key. And most people just get confused and they get lost, and they're just kind of running around in circles, not really pushing forward with anything. And that's going to hold your game back. So I don't want you to rely on just luck and just running in circles and hoping that it just ends up being the right thing, or searching for random info and hoping it ends up being the right info. What I want you to do is realize, have a good strategy. And this is the 4 core pieces to having a good strategy. Now, we'll discuss all 4 of them kind of scattered throughout this, but what I'm going to try to do more so is give you these 4 to understand, and then give you a whole bunch of tactics that you can apply here. So kind of strap in for this, because there's going to be a lot of stuff you can take notes on and then actually build off of from this. And that's the key, is like, remember, whenever I say these things, what I'm trying to do is spark and ignite a fire in you to go and take the things I'm saying and then do something with it. I'm trying to get you to build a system for yourself that allows you to get to the next level. I'm trying to help you shift your identity and see yourself as a different person, so that you can be that different person. Because it starts with a simple belief that I can be something, and that allows you to then make a movement towards being something else. You can't have a full belief that you are, slow and weak and never going to be great, and then expect that somehow you're still going to end up being strong, fast, and an amazing player. This doesn't make any sense. So I just highly encourage you to think about that. Now, again, here are the 4 main things for to develop a strategy. You want to increase the rate of development. You want to increase the chances of playing better. You want to increase your chances of playing more, and you want to increase your chances of playing at the next level. Those are the 4 kind of like main things that you're going to get out of like doing this. Sorry, I kind of misexplained my article here, but it's realizing like the 4 things you're going to want to do and you want to get out of this is, you want to like get better faster. You want to make sure that you're increasing the chances of getting better every time you do something. You want to increase your chances of playing more, so you want to get more ice time so you can play better, and you want to increase your chances of playing at the next level. Now, how do you stack the deck in your favor so it's not just luck? So realize there is a right time for everything. You don't want to be lucky. You want to actually have a time for everything and develop. So development is about timing. You want to learn the right things at the right time, and you want to make sure that it's not just doing as much as you can, like we just talked about, it's doing the best things you can at the right times. So a couple very simple examples of this that I think are worth touching on are, for example, when you're a minor hockey player, you want to be careful that you don't develop too much into your strengths. So what I mean by this is that sometimes players will allow their strength to actually turn themselves, like to create a weakness. So for example, if you're a really big minor hockey player, if this is something for parents or players, if you're listening to this, if you're a big hockey player, don't rely purely on your size to produce. Because suddenly, if you don't maintain that size differential, you suddenly, not only have you lost the thing you were using, but you don't have other tools built up that you can now play with. So learn to be a bigger guy or girl who plays with other tools. Learn to be able to manipulate players' feet, or learn how to be able to be very deceptive, or learn how to play fast, or learn how to see the ice extremely well. That's because if you don't continue to have that differential, suddenly now you are still able to be better than people, because you can just bring in other tools, and maybe you've already been leveraging those tools. So it's so important to do that for yourself. I promise you, you will be really grateful if you do take that advice. Now, another thing you could consider, for example, is let's say you're a junior player and you're trying to get into the Division I level. And one of the things that players will make the mistake of when they're in junior is they will think that they want to be just great at all skills. So it's like, I'm going to be a great, well-rounded player. Now, schools like that, they obviously want to know you don't have any major weaknesses, but if you don't have any great tools that they say, ooh, I like that, that's different than everyone else, we could use that, and that makes them a more valuable person to us, because we can't just, find any player in any league and they are going to have the tool that you have. So you got to make sure you develop a strength, or like a core pillar skill that allows people to be able to say, ooh, that's something. And another way to say it is, it's like a unicorn skill, right? Like it's a unique tool that no one else has. And it's almost like, wow, like I didn't know if anybody really could shoot like that, or I didn't know anybody was that good at zone entries, or I didn't know anybody was that good at one-on-ones or one-timers. Now you're starting to see how that works, because you have this tool that no one else has, so no one else can compete with you on being you. And that's how you build up your unique identity, is having that actual talent stack or skill stack that it separates you. So that's why we typically will call it a separator skill stack. And that's why, is because it separates you by stacking your skills in a unique way. So now you're starting to kind of probably get the idea of what the identity is. So then the next place that I want to kind of look at here is just remembering, you want to try to get as much leverage as you can out of your time. So when it comes down to the idea of the right time for everything, it's also about making sure that when you do anything, it's always the most effective thing in that moment. So, for example, again, we talked about that in terms of just two core places, in terms of like a minor player and a junior player trying to get to college, having that tool that separates you, or not relying on your strengths and allowing your strengths to become weaknesses. But you want to get the most leverage out of your time that you can. So you want to think, okay, what is the best thing I can do right now? So that should bring some clarity there. Now, the next thing is, I want to talk about the elite players who want to get to their destination, or have a goal, or who have a target. They take a certain approach to that. And what I would say that approach is that they think of basically the way they're going as like a trip to somewhere. Like you're getting in a car and you're going to travel to wherever you're going. And so somebody who is really like committed and wants to be successful and wants to get to their goal or get to their destination, they look at it more than simply just, all right, we're just going to start the car and just drive in a direction and hopefully we get there. So what a great player will do is they will think about the car. So they'll think about like their body and their skill. So we'll keep the analogy of traveling in a car. So they'll look at the car and make sure that everything works the way you want it to, right? So that's your body and skill when it comes to hockey. Look at the map. So what do you need to do? Where do you need to go? When do you need to do it, right? So like that's the turns and where the different roads and routes you need to take. Same thing for hockey. What is the map? What are the different components of your development, your physical skills, your physical like tools that you have in terms of strength, power, speed, cardio, explosiveness, right? Size. Those are things that you want to make sure, like, what is the map to doing that? You need somebody to help you lay that out. That's what we do with identity shift, because it is a confusing thing when you first get going with this. You also want to think about the traffic, like what other players what are they running into? So if you think about in terms of tons of young players get totally caught up in trying to be this like perfect, like I already have this tool, I have a great shot, so I'm just going to rely on this shot for my whole career. And then suddenly they get to the next level. It's like, shit, like I really didn't develop anything else. And then it's also thinking like the weather conditions. So the traffic is obviously where people are getting caught up, but think about what obstacles are you likely to run into? Think about maybe where you currently are. Do you have access to all the tools you need? Do you have access to the coach you want? Think about the different things that may get in the way. Are you prepared for having a coach who is not the ideal coach for you? Are you ready to deal with a hard ass who, makes things really difficult? Are you ready for that? Do you have the plan? Do you have the tools all built up? And then the person who has those things figured out and who's done that, that's why they move with confidence. But then they also remain humble enough to know that there's always something to learn. So for example, when someone's traveling and you have your GPS on, let's say, and it's taking you a certain route and you planned it out and you know where you're going, and then it says, ooh, there's a new route you could take and it's going to save you 10 minutes. The smart driver will just say, yeah, cool, click it, boom, they're going that way now. And that's the same thing with hockey. You may think that the route for you is you're going to go from, let's say, you're going to go AAA to right to junior A, let's say. And then suddenly something opens up and you find out, well, actually, I need another extra year to develop a little bit more before I make the jump. So you go play, I don't know, junior B, and you get to develop there, or whatever it is. There's a lower level tier 3 junior kind of thing. And you say, I'm going to go do that. And then you develop the tools you need and you took a different route. Or maybe you thought you needed to play on a certain team specifically. That team isn't available, they don't have the right opening for you, or the coach changes, and you just adapt and change and take a different turn. And now you're still headed in the right direction generally, but you just have to actually read and react to what is there in front of you. And so many players get caught up in thinking like that is the map and that's it, I can't change it. But adaptation is what allows people to actually get to where they want to go. When you want to go on a long trip, you have to be willing to adapt, and that's what's going to get you further ahead than people. Now, here's another kind of piece to this. You want to realize that development is personal. And what I mean by this is that every person needs different things. And I feel like a lot of people think, all right, I want to take an online course that 10x's my development in 10 weeks. But I have to be clear, that's not what's going to happen. There's no secret sauce that's just going to unlock you and make you McDavid. But there are tools and there are techniques, there are strategies you can take that are going to allow you to get way further ahead than you otherwise would have. I don't know where that's going to take you, but I promise you it's going to take you further than you ever thought. Or at least it's going to take you further than you were going to go. Maybe you do have a really good mindset and you're dialed in, but this stuff will make a huge difference for you. And that's the thing. If you've got the base level, you realize that like a one-size-fits-all program is not going to do anything for you in terms of your skill development, in terms of any development you go through. The way you want to get to a place is realize development is personal. I'm going to have to take my own unique path, and that's just the way it is. So how do you make it personal? Here's the thing. Most people make the mistake that they think, okay, everybody needs the same thing. So then they say, all right, I'm just going to see whatever happens and it's going to all align. Instead, what you want to do is prioritize what matters. So instead of trying 10 things, you should prioritize the most important things. Now, you can look at the previous video I made on identity. I can't remember what it's called right now, but if you just search like hockey identity, you should find it on YouTube. You can also just scroll through the website, coursandstrolls.com/letters. That will also allow you to see it. Or blog. I can't remember which one it is right now. I think it's blog. But that's what you want to realize. And you want to ask yourself these core things when you want to prioritize things. You want to say, what are you aiming for in terms of how do you want to develop as a player? What type of player do you want to be? How do you want to craft those things? And then you want to ask yourself, what skills are currently holding me back? So for me, the biggest mistake I think I made throughout my junior career was that I started neglecting my speed. And I neglected it when I really should have been prioritizing it, because speed was the thing that really killed me, because I used to be faster than a lot of players. I had really good agility, and then I just let go of that extra gear that I had built up. And so I kind of became average speed. I had pretty good explosive power, but it just didn't really give me any extra that I could have used. And at times I feel like it bottlenecked me when I started getting to a higher level. It was like a barrier skill, but I just didn't like assess it in myself. And I got kind of lazy and just said, I'll just do general stuff to speed up. And I should have really prioritized it and built a proper plan. That's why I give all my guys in my programs like a full speed program, because if you want to develop your whole game, you need to make sure you have these core tools in the stack. So that's something really important to do. And that's typically the thing you want to think is, like, when I look at a client's game film, a lot of times that's like the easiest place to look. So I recommend you do the same thing, is like actually identify what are the 1 to 3 skills that are holding you back from making the plays that you want to make, and what are the things that are causing it. And then you want to look at, how can I do this? How can I actually build a plan around this? And this is a complex thing, which we'll touch on a little bit later. But the main thing you want to do is really just ask yourself, okay, I got the strength, or I got the weak point. Like, what is the barrier skills that I have that are blocking me? And then you want to ask yourself, what are the more pillar skills or the strengths, and how are those going to help separate me, right? So you want to think, what can I double down on? What can I do more of? And be careful here, because you don't want to put too much emphasis and rely on that strength. But for example, if you want to be a great shooter and you already have a high level shot, but if you just developed it a little bit more, you would be elite at shooting. You'd be known as an elite shooter in your junior league or whatever it is. Something to work on. These are really important. So now you may want to, for example, move up lines and earn a certain role on a team. You want to consider that if you want to do something like that, you want to move up lines, you want to move up and play at a higher level or play on a better team, you need to realize that each one requires a different approach. And now we have to understand that if we want to make a movement towards it. So now players will ask me in season, and I'm rolling through this and I'm trying to figure out how to develop myself throughout the year when you have a busy season and you have a ton of stuff going on. What I would recommend is that you have 3 core things that you do throughout the year. You have a monthly overview that you do at the end of every month to actually assess where you are. And this can be just an hour-long session. You just sit down and you just reflect on everything that you've done throughout the month. Every week, do a 30-minute general plan. So look at what you did last week. What did you learn from the week? What worked? What didn't? And then reflect on it. And then every single day, you should have a daily plan. So before you go to bed, you should know what your plan is for the next day. At the beginning of the day, you should check it over, have a look, and then actually go with your day. You can do this using like a calendar app. That's the best place to start, is on your iPhone or whatever phone you have. You have the calendar app, or a lot of people like using Google Calendar. I personally don't use it, but it's definitely a good move. And that's what you want to do, is have these reflections built in so that you can learn from the things you're already doing. Now, to improve on the things that you're doing, I recommend following the 3-hour workday. This is what I have all my guys in my programs think about. And there's 3 core elements to this. Number 1, you want to work on your skills. That's the most important thing, in my opinion, for pretty much every player. You need your skills to get better, so you should have a plan of how you're going to work on your skills for 30, 60, 90, or however long you're going to work on it. But have a plan for that. Again, you think of 60 for a 3-hour workday, but you can make it as long as you want. Then within that, you also skill. You have the mental side of it. So you want to make sure your mindset, your confidence, your decision-making and IQ, you're studying film, you're improving on your mental. And then finally, you want to work on your physical abilities or your body. So doing strength stuff, doing recovery things, and also finding ways to make sure you bulletproof your system so that you reduce the chances of injury. Having quality nutrition is also important as well. So you design that 3-hour day, but you have those 3 core chunks. So how are you going to work on your mind, your body, your skill, or skill, mind, body is how I just said it. And then within that, you need to have plans for each of those. So you want to make sure you have actual skill. And again, like I want you to note this stuff down, because this is stuff you can actually do and take from this. You can make your own versions of this. You should have a full skill session plan that you know how to do. So you should have like full skill session that you can do anytime. You should have full practice plans to achieve different outcomes. So if you want to work on whatever weaknesses or strengths you have, writing out a plan. So any time you have a full 60 minutes of ice time, just for any reason, you can execute on it. You want to work on your biggest strengths. You want to have 3 to 5 drills to progress through every single day. You want to work on your biggest weaknesses, and biggest current strengths as well. So strength and weakness, have 3 to 5 drills for each. And basically within that, you can think of it that those things, having 3 to 5 drills for your biggest strength and 3 to 5 drills for your biggest weakness, you can think of that as your before or after practice mini plan, and build this stuff up front. I'm telling you, take a couple hours each day for the next, whatever it is, week or 2 weeks. Write this stuff down and watch how much better you get. You can steal all of this stuff if you want. We have a full program. It starts at $100 a month if you want to join that program, and it gives you all these tools all in front of you. You get access to everything I've built, and it's all like detailed, and it saves you all that time, right? Because at the end of the day, it's going to take you at least a couple weeks to a week, 2 weeks to write this all out if you work like every day for multiple hours. And it's taken me years to put this stuff and iterate on it, put it together and iterate. So if you're trying to do this, just think you can do it yourself and spend years to build this stuff, or you can just steal it from people who've put the work in and who've already done it. And then you can iterate and put the work in and get way better results. So that's my recommendation. Now, as you go throughout the season now, what you want to think about is you want to study your KPIs, or your key performance indicators, and understand that each player has different key performance indicators. There are, for example, roles that a player will have that mean that they need to be, let's say, a shutdown defenseman. So if you're a shutdown defenseman, your KPIs might be hits, takeaways, and forced dumps, right? Pretty simple. Like those are the things you would measure for each game and reflect on how you can improve and get better at those. If you're an offensive forward, your KPIs might be shots on net or goals. You want to notice what are the things that are happening most frequently within those, in terms of, am I getting the puck in a certain place? Am I defending from this area? Am I ending up giving passes here or here? And then consider, how do those interact with my KPIs? And if you want to be successful, you want to think about the 2 things when it comes to KPIs. How frequently is it happening, and what is your success rate within it? You want to constantly be asking yourself, can I increase the amount of times that this happens? So more times. Can I get better at it? So can I get a higher success rate within that thing? Or can I do something new and actually just start creating a different situation for myself? That's the key. Now, if you want to actually learn how to develop the skills to do that stuff, I recommend looking at Nathan McKinnon for this. And it's the idea of slowing it down and then speeding it up. So when you watch McKinnon make moves and make amazing plays, what I've noticed is that he is extremely fast at doing things that most players are really good at doing slow. So he can stick handle with great efficiency extremely quickly. But if you want to get to that point, what I recommend is slowing your movements down and understanding how to move better. Then once you get the movement down, then you speed it up, and then you push yourself extremely hard. And I recommend using the rule of thirds for this. So when I say this, the rule of thirds, what I really mean is that split your actual programming up into thirds whenever you do like any kind of skill work. The first third is doing it slow and feeling it and getting the mechanics down. This is where you want to actually like feel every detail and really, really get the proper movements. Then you spend time in the middle third where you start to get the reps in. You're just getting a feel for it, moving quicker and progressively moving quicker. And then what you want to do is hit a point where you start to mess up. And now what you want to do is you want to be messing up about a third of the time. So that means you're messing up in the range of kind of like 30%, 3 out of 10 or 30 out of 100. And just ask yourself, am I pushing myself that hard in every single session I'm on the ice or doing any kind of work? That's what it takes to be great, is pushing yourself to that level. And if you watch someone like Nate McKinnon practice, you'll see him. He messes up like somewhere in the range of like a third of the time. He'll miss his stick handle. He might almost lose the puck. But he's willing to do that because that's what allows you to develop. That's what the development zone is being in that space where you're on the edge and you're causing your body to have to actually adapt to this challenge. That's what it takes to be great. And I want to hammer this home because so many people get caught up in, and I got caught up in thinking, you don't have to train that hard. You don't have to push yourself that hard. But if you really want to be great, you're going to have to find a whole new level of ability. And what that means is giving yourself that failure allowance of about 30%. Give yourself the ability to mess up and notice that when you do, you can then play games and slow it down. You can calm it down. You can find like a slower pace that really works for you. That is like a secret. It's like a hack, is realizing that everyone says work hard, but no one explains really why. But why it works is that you get into that development zone, you start messing up around a third of the time, you find out that there is adaptations and there are bottlenecks, there are barriers, there are things that are stopping your performance. You find what those weak points are, and then you can improve on them. But if you don't push yourself into that range, you can't get better. So you push yourself hard, just like you push a muscle hard in the gym. The muscle has to adapt, come back bigger, stronger, faster, and then you do it again, and you do it again. And it may seem a little weird at first when you're screwing things up and maybe your coach yells at you or you get chirped once in a while. What you know in the back of your mind is that that's what's going to separate you after 5-10 years. Because you're going to be so far ahead of the people who weren't willing to make mistakes, who weren't willing to get into the development zone, who weren't willing to be uncomfortable. You want to be uncomfortable for at least a third of your practices. A lot of times you can even speed through that middle phase and you can just go straight into the development zone to doing things really slow, and then speeding it up should happen very quickly. So that's my recommendation there. Now, the last thing is just based off of what I said about Nate McKinnon. You want to make sure that you're studying what the best do and then studying what works in general. That's what great people do in every area. And that's what I'm going to be continuing to do and doing even more of in the next while. Is really what my mission is to help high-level hockey players to, number one, train better, and number two is unlock their potential. Because I want to help all players in the world have access to high-level development training and really have a chance to improve their mental game, their physical game, their skill game, and just become their best version of themselves. So if you want to do that, what I recommend is that you implement a study method of looking at what the best players do and then finding what the patterns are. And I call this pattern of the pros. I did this when I was working with Jason Yee in Train 2.0 a while back. And it is a game changer when you really do this stuff. Because you notice that success leaves clues. You notice that players have certain moves, certain plays, certain tools. And I encourage you to do this, to look at what great players do, look at what great people do in everything and learn from success and be inspired by it. Because you can't always just copy everything. You can't just steal every single thing and try to be that exact person, because you're always going to be your own unique identity. But if you want to be the best, you must look and shortcut the process as much as you can by figuring out what works for other people and then implementing those components into your game and building your own unique separator skill stacks. That's what's going to make you great. So this article was really designed to basically give you like a foundational understanding, because I know it seems like when it comes to skills, you want to just have like, what's the exact drill? How do I follow this? Yes, that you do want to get there, but you have to have the overarching strategy first before you can work on the tactics. Strategy first, then tactics, because now you have an eagle view or, bird's eye view looking down at everything. But you want to make sure that you're doing that to know if you're even headed in the right direction. And the reason the bird's eye view thing matters so much is, let's say, for example, you're walking through a forest and you think you're walking out of the forest, but you're really walking deeper into it and going to end up walking the opposite direction. When if you took 100 steps the other way, you just get out and you'd be able to go home, right? That's the difference when you take a strategic approach. So in the future, I'm going to be continuing to get better at this. I'm going to continue to try to help you guys with tactics as well. If you want to shortcut this, feel free to go and look at Train 2.0. I think they do a great job with their mechanics stuff and helping you to steal from what great players are already doing and figure out how to implement what pieces that you need into your game. It'll just help you save some time. But otherwise, just go look and do a bunch of different stuff. So go do a bunch of studying, figure out what great players are doing, and there's a ton of free content out there that will help you with the components of skills. That's a great place to start with this. So hope this helps. I know I ramble a lot on these, but I just try my best to actually have like a conversation with you. And I also hope that you can listen to these while you train, while you shoot, while you're on the way to different trips, and let me know if you guys do like it. I try to make this like a conversation. Maybe I need to say you more often and just speak to you individually as opposed to talking to so many different people. Also, sorry about that. There's some bikers out there. Unfortunately, I can't stop them in Philadelphia. But yeah, so that's the key. So the last thing I'll say just before we head out here is if you're a U15 plus AAA junior, college, or pro player, and you're looking to move up levels, and you're trying to really figure out how to be the best player you can be, you want to unlock your ability, and you know that you need to develop certain components of your game. You need to get your mental game dialed in. You need to get your skills figured out and make sure you're developing the right identity so you can play the right roles on your team. I want to help you by using our identity shift method that's helped all of our clients that we work with consistently level up, move up lines, move up in the lineup, move up to different leagues, and be able to sign Division 1 or pro contracts. So that's what we do. We focus on helping you become your best version of yourself, of yourself, by using this methodology. It works. If you've used any of the stuff we've given out for free, definitely you'll see how doing this stuff really makes a difference. But my recommendation is fill out a form if you're interested, if you're in that age of kind of U15 AAA, junior college or pro, you're trying to move up, and basically just apply, fill out the form so I can see if you would be an ideal fit just based on what you're kind of working on. We'll reach out to you super quick if we do think you're a good fit, and then we'll probably get on a call with you, have a conversation, and see how we can help. So if you need anything from me, if there's anything that wasn't clear in this episode, please let me know. I want to remake a lot of these and make them better and better so I can help you guys actually get better. And hope this was a good overview for you. But make sure if you want to work on like the mental side of it, check out the free training. There'll be like a Linktree thing, and there's a free training button in there. So check that out. And obviously subscribe to this because I put out like a weekly blog like this every single week, and going to be putting out a lot more stuff. So I'm going to continue to adapt and try to be better and better with this. But if there's things that I can do that to be better and to make it more clear for you, let me know. Have a good one. Hope this was worth your time.